numbered over time. Oh, gee, baby. And Melissa Francis just walked off the stage.
She's chatted with us.
She's threw
done with
her
us.
scripts. She said, you know what? It's Tuesday. No,
Goodbye.
She's got another show to do.
She flipped
Very
a table
busy.
over, too, on her way out, which is really
in
uncalled for.
demand. She's busy. She's the beloved Melissa Francis of FBN. We had a pretty deep conversation about Colin Kaepernick at the end of the TV version of us, and we're going to get signed on to the live chat. And
I have a question
Facebook
about
Live.
Twitter. If you start a tweet with a Twitter handle, are you supposed to put
a period before it?
Why is that?
Because otherwise the only people that can see... Thank you, Fox News fan, for telling me this actually not too long ago. Because if I tweet you or you tweet me without it, if we're people who follow us both can see it, but nobody else can. But
I knew there was something. I just didn't know what the
If you
rule
put a period
was.
there, everybody can?
Right.
Okay.
I see. So I need to retweet Theismann. I was like, wait a second. I don't know why I have one heart on my Theismann picture.
Because only people that follow you and Joe
Facebook's
Theismann
going
would
nuts
know
with it, and Twitter's doing nothing. I'm like, okay, so I have to redo this. Okay.
Now, Harris brought up a very interesting thing. We were talking about Colin Kaepernick and the National Football League's policy. When those police officers were shot in Dallas, players wanted to honor them with something on their uniform. And the league wouldn't let them do it.
Right, we covered that here.
I think it's a double standard. I think if you're gonna have a policy that covers players, you need to tighten it up going forward. I really do. And certainly certain circumstances and situations lend themselves to an opportunity to be able to express yourself. And like I said, I agree with Clark Hunt. It's his field. It's their workplace. It's the owners. They need to take charge and set policy that affects players in a certain way.
If that's the case, and I don't disagree with you, but if that's the case, then somebody who beats their wife, and we've had instances of that happen, or engages in
domestic violence,
or dog. I mean, who's that? I don't know anything about football, but who was the guy who played for Philadelphia who's in that horrible dog?
Oh, Michael Vick.
Michael Vick situation. Yeah, I mean, if you're going to do it for things like this, shouldn't you do it for stuff like that as well? So if you're involved in domestic violence, you can't play anymore.
He
no
was in prison.
excuses.
So I mean,
not Michael Vick, but I'm talking. Okay, but then
Michael went and paid his dues to society.
I'm not talking about that, but who was the guy? This is
Ray Rice.
Ray Rice. This is my ignorance about football.
Was the Baltimore Ravens.
Right. So does he get to then come back?
He hasn't. He hasn't come back.
But is that a policy that the league should make, that if you're convicted of domestic violence, then where do you stop?
Should be consistent.
That's the biggest
that's the
thing.
problem that I had, not just with the... By the way, I mean, the whole idea of his girlfriend, fiance, being dragged across the threshold of that elevator and us being able to see it because of the video that came out and so shocked our conscience shouldn't be necessary for us to be shocked about this. I mean, the history of domestic violence makes it kind of... I don't know, a microcosm of society, the NFL.
That is the perfect description of it.
Yeah, they should have some things in place to deal with what we all know are unfortunately human nature. So, when officers are gunned down and assassinated in Dallas, Texas, and football players want to wear something on their uniform, if the rule is no recognition of anything political or societal off the field, then why doesn't it apply when Colin Kaepernick takes a knee?
Because there's no rule to say that he has to stand.
Right.
There isn't anything, and the league is very rule-oriented, and there's no policy or no rule that basically says this will happen. I really would love to see the National Football League adopt a certain set of rules that actually, it's like President Obama when he drew the line in the sand, and then he drew another line in the sand, and then another line in the sand. It seems like the NFL does that with their abuse policy, whether it's substance abuse or whether it's domestic violence. You need to set a precedent. Putting on a uniform to play professional football, in my opinion, is a privilege. It's an honor to be able to do that.
Yeah.
When you don't follow the rules, you don't deserve the privilege to wear that uniform. And if you commit a similar type of a infraction, at some point, if you continue to do it, you lose the right to be able to be a professional.
How's the game different today than when you played?
I think so much of it is driven by social media. I think guys are all looking for that one moment. They communicate so much more with the fans in that regard. It's a bit of a much more wide open game. The game has been designed from an entertainment capacity to be able to make the offense special. Let's open the game up. You can't hit receivers after 5 yards. You let guys push and shove, and inconsistency is what the biggest problem is. And I think that was another thing we were talking about. What's some of the issues? I think the fans are tired of the stoppage of play by constantly reviewing things. You know, coaches are given challenges. If you don't like something, use the challenge. When it's used up, you've got to live with whatever the call is on the sidelines, because you're never going to find the perfect scenario to be able to operate under. So there are, I think, you know, I get tired of watching a game where I'm watching a game, all of a sudden, oh, let's go to the booth for a replay to see if this is a catch or this is that.
At some point, the announcers get more attention than the people on the field.
The refs.
I mean, we're having to listen to them fill all the space of them trying to figure out what the call is.
Should always be about the game.
So Super Taco, which I don't think is his or her real name, the NFL needs new leadership, does it?
No. No, I think Roger Goodell has done a terrific job leading. I think they have to tighten up the policies. I think the Players Association and the league have to work together and say, what we want to do is we want to make it so that everybody understands that if you do X, Y is going to happen without any
So why is it so
by the
hard to do
commissioner.
that? Is it because there's so much money involved?
There's tons of money, but I don't think the economics enter into it in that regard.
Really? How about hands up, don't shoot? All right, so you can't recognize the officers with something on your uniform, but you can have players, professional players, come out of a dugout to the sound of music with their hands up, don't shoot. And that was a narrative about that particular shooting, unfortunate as it was, that was not true. So now you've got politics getting into the game.
It has to be consistent. You're right. Since I know nothing about football, I have to go to my friend Jerry, who's a huge
you
Giant.
Call it a lifeline.
Who's I call it a lifeline. My friend Jerry, who's a huge Giants fan. He has something he wants to pass on to you, a Redskins fan.
Yeah, thanks a lot.
He wants to tell you that Josh Norman overplayed his hand, and an unknown named King made the Skins secondary look foolish. I think I'm speaking Latin to you, but does this make sense to you? What do you say to my friend Jerry?
Jerry, I will tell you this very simply, that that I believe that Josh Norman got caught up in the moment. I think Odell Beckham got in his head to a degree. The Giants, to me, some of the calls that were made in that game by the Giants offensively, they knew they were going to be in the playoffs. I don't think the Redskins capitalized, nor did they play a very good football game. It happened to be one of those times, happened to be one of those times in a season where you just happened to play your worst game at the worst possible time when it affected you. But I do tend to agree that Josh's emotions got carried away with him, and I think Odell crept into his head a little bit on that one.
All right. My friend Jerry is very grateful, I'm sure.
Joe Theismann, I remember back in April of '99 when you came to City Club in Lafayette, Louisiana, and spoke. You were awesome. I remember having my picture taken with you.
And you remember.
Thank you.
The way they say it down there. Lafayette.
Oh, is that right?
Not Lafayette. It's not Lafayette. It's Lafayette.
So people are asking this is interesting.
Well, this is
Minnesota Fuca says, so players are fined for celebrating after a touchdown, but ...
Oh, I know. I mean, there's more than one player that celebrates. Two guys can shake hands or do whatever. And if a player, you can't dunk a ball over the things. I mean, there's so many little ticky-tacky rules that people look at. I had the pleasure of having a conversation with President-elect Trump on Tuesday.
Name dropper.
Well, it was just we've been friends for a long time.
I could see you guys getting along really well.
We've been friends for a long time. I really like. I like what he said. I like the fact that nobody gave him a chance. I mean, remember, there were 17 people standing on the stage.
Are you up for any positions in his...
I did. He asked me about politics, and I said, no, thank you, sir. I'm going to leave that to you. But I like the fact that he will bring an entirely different mentality to Washington, D.C., and it's one where I hope Congress and the Senate work together. And to hear Senator Schumer stand up and say, we're going to do everything we can to hold him accountable. I would have liked to have heard him say, we want to do everything we can to work with this president to make sure that the American people come first. That's what instead of this contentious nature.
Like Mitch McConnell did. I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
That was a joke. Because Mitch McConnell did the complete opposite of that.
Yeah, but it's, to me, I'd like to, it's time. And really, the House has very little excuses going forward now. It's like you don't have a Democratic president and a Republican House. It's like we don't have the stalemate. Things have to get done. There are a lot of people that are going to be accountable over the next 4 years in politics where things have to get passed and have to get done. If they don't, then we're a lost society.
So the breaking news during our TV hour about this ethics committee that is going to, this rule that's been pulled now, that Republicans are not going to give away that oversight. What is your quick thought about that?
I think you need policing. I think you have to be able to.
So you agree with Donald Trump that
I do.
It needs to be done?
I do agree with him. I think there has to be accountability. We've just become so unaccountable for things. We want to blame everybody, and we want to just shy away from things that are going on and just say, oh, let somebody else handle it. No, I agree with Donald Trump on this.
All right. Well, good to have you.
Great to
Thanks
be back.
for the way to
kick off the year. Joe,
See you tomorrow.
Thank you.